Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. My name is Thomas Khalil. I'm the former director of MBA admissions and financial aid for my alma mater, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. In this podcast, I don't promise easy answers or quick fixes, but I will use my decades of experience to help you achieve your education goals. Now let's get started. Welcome to the Admittedly podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Khalil, and today's question of the week: do alumni interviews matter? For the larger and more prestigious schools, you may be invited to have an alumni interview. And a lot of students get very worried about this, and they get worried if they can't get an interview. They get worried if they are offered an interview, but the person goes dark. And I want to take a little bit of a controversial approach here. The bottom line is that alumni interviews are not a function of admissions. They are a function of alumni affairs and annual giving. So are alumni a great resource for the school? Absolutely. Am I an alumni interviewer? Absolutely. I love it. It's a great way to meet really bright, talented young people who are going on to change the world. It's a great way to communicate values of the school. It's a great way to talk about your experience and share things about the school that they might not know. But does it have a bearing on admissions? Goodness, no. I want you to think about this from the perspective of admissions. You have literally, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of alumni out there. You know nothing about them. You don't know if they're trained. You don't know what their biases are. You don't know anything really about them. And you're getting this report back. And did they ask the right questions? Did they create a welcoming interview environment? Did they create a hostile environment? You don't really know. And so it's very dangerous for you to put much stock in that interview. So really what you want to do as an applicant is approach an alumni interview as basically an informational interview. It's a great way for you to just interact with an alumnus or an alumna and get a sense of their perspective, their experience, right? They are definitely going to say something along the lines of, so tell me about yourself. And that is a good opportunity for you to, I think, show that you are prepared. So most people, when they're asked that question, just start talking. Well, blah, blah, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that, I took this class, and 15 minutes later, they finally run out of steam. They've burned anywhere from 30 to 50% of their time. The interviewer's eyes are completely glazed over, and they're just kind of nodding along and thinking about whether or not they fed their cat or what they're going to make for dinner or what their weekend plans are, because you're just on a roll. I strongly advocate that you say something like, well, there are 3 different components to my application, to who I am. There's my extracurricular activities, there are my academics, and there's my summer work, recent summer internship in this particular field. Where would you like me to start? And then that creates this dynamic thing. So the interviewer might say, well, tell me a little bit about your academics. Great. I'm interested in this subject. I've taken this many APs. I've done some research around this particular, around chemistry, which is my intended major at your school. You guys have a great chemistry department. You have this leading professor who's doing really interesting research in this field of genomics that I would like to look at as cross-reference with the biology department. And from that, right, then you can say, would you like to talk about my extracurricular activities next, my involvement in sports, whatever it is. And so that keeps things engaged and fresh, and it keeps a dialogue with your interviewer instead of you just droning on while the interviewer sits there. The interviewer will definitely ask you why you want this particular school, and this is your chance to stretch your legs a little bit and show that you have done your research. You should talk about a balance of the academic process and then the extracurricular offerings, and not just listing things, but saying, I do this now, and your school has this, and this, and I'm really interested in doing these 3 things. They tie to what I'm doing. One of them is totally out of left field because I want to try something new. That's the reason I'm going to a big university. And so that shows that you've done your research, but you're also keeping an open mind. You're going to be an involved member of the community. At the end, the interviewer generally will ask you for questions. Now, this is very important. Don't ask them specifics about the application process or the school, or, if I load up on classes my freshman year, can I graduate early or get a triple major? Or if I'm majoring in urban studies, can I also minor in economics? They're not going to know that. What I always ask is, ask yourself the Google test. Can I Google the answer to this question? And if the answer is yes, don't ask the question. Okay, this is particularly true for smaller schools where you might be interviewing with a member of the faculty or the admissions committee, because there's nothing worse than somebody who clearly has over-prepared for an interview and asks you a question that they could very easily Google and just say, you have me here, I'm an expert on the school, and that's how you choose to use this opportunity. And that's never going to work favorably for you. Instead, ask them about their experience, right? What brought you to the school? What did you enjoy most? What was your favorite class? Have you found the alumni network to be helpful to you? All of these things are very, very important because it gives them, first of all, a chance to talk about themselves, and everybody loves a chance to talk about themselves, but it also just gives you a personal connection with them. And then, of course, when you get home, I want you to think about it for a little bit. Don't just fire off a quick, thank you so much for your time. Be thoughtful about your reply. Follow up on a question that maybe you didn't give a complete answer to, or if the interviewer asked you a question, or if the interviewer said something, you say, boy, that really resonated with me because in thinking about it, really ties to my interest in X, Y, Z at the university, after university. Make it personal, make it nice. It should not be long. It should be concise, and just get that out, I would say within 12 hours of the interview. So relax, enjoy the alumni interviews, have fun. If you get assigned an interviewer and they drop the ball, you can contact the interviewer, the club that's running it, and say, hey, this happened. But if you don't get an interview, it in no way counts against you. Don't worry about it. Relax and enjoy the process. Thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Admittedly podcast and download this episode. I welcome you to share your thoughts and questions with me. You can find us on social media at Admittedly Podcast. I look forward to continuing our journey together.